Hello, and welcome to Women in Business, where we interview entrepreneurs and senior managers and show you the strengths, successes, obstacles, and roadblocks women experience in business. Since I believe every person in business needs to be visible, I'd like to invite you to watch www.sob6, that's the number 6, tips.com, which will give you some valuable information should you get the call to be on radio or TV, which I think is extremely important. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at Gayle Carson, that's Gayle, Gayle Carson 13 at gmail.com, or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter.
My guest today is Deanna Won, and Deanna is the founder of Keynotes to Life, and she's an international best-selling author, speaker, leadership consultant, and holistic health coach who inspires people to reach their highest potential through integrating leadership principles with purposeful and healthy living. She's a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, a former colonel and physicist. She has 30 years of experience in lasers, electro-optics, satellite launch, missile defense, NATO operations, and chemical, biological, and nuclear defense. Plus, she's an ovarian cancer survivor, miraculously recovering from hospice when given only 4 weeks to live. Having a second chance at life is what fuels her passion to inspire and empower others, especially anyone who is challenged with a life-threatening condition like cancer. Welcome to the show, Deanna.
Thank you so much, Gayle. I really appreciate you inviting me to be on your show.
Well, it's really interesting because I'm going through my 4th case of breast cancer right now.
Is that right?
This has been over a 31-year journey, and I was amazed when it happened again, but there it was. So you can imagine I identify with everything that you're talking about. But first of all, you don't look like you could have had 30 years and all of that experience that you've had. Second of all, I don't even know half of the things that you're talking about here, electro-optics and satellite launch and chemical, biological defense and all of that. And then to change and go into all of this, you spent 3 decades working as a physicist in the Air Force. What on earth made you make that shift to building a business as a holistic health coach? Was it your diagnosis?
Absolutely. You guessed that correctly, Gayle. I had actually no intention of becoming a health coach because I wanted to actually go into the State Department and continue doing international, cooperative research and development. But with the health coaching, that came about because when I got diagnosed, I was trying to figure out what was the best thing I could do to heal myself. And so I actually enrolled myself at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition to learn about all these different dietary theories in the hopes that I could find something that would help to kind of shift what was going on in my condition, because my condition basically deteriorated to the point where I ended up with both of my lungs collapsed, filled with fluid, and I was in hospice, given 4 weeks to live, as you mentioned.
Well, I know that people who are in a hospice are in a very dire situation because I was a healthcare director for a very dear friend of mine, and she was put in hospice and of course eventually passed away, but lived much longer than they thought. But you were in pretty bad shape. What do you think made the change?
Well, there's a lot of things. Not only is it the diet is really foundational, I think, but I had to change everything about my life. I had to change the way I thought about things, the way I handled stress, develop a strong faith, because I was face to face with my own mortality. And I really think that having some sense of spirituality and, guidance is really critical. That's what really truly guided me as far as the approach I wanted to take to heal. And so I changed everything to include moving and just looking at my home environment, what I put in my body, everything.
Yeah, but to go from hospice to where you are now is absolutely unbelievable. And I mean, you've got to be written up in medical journals, because I don't know people who have been in hospice, especially with ovarian cancer, who have come back the way you have. So you're a miracle person working, walking and talking, and it's amazing. So did you ever, with all of your history and training and experience, did you ever envision yourself owning a business?
Never. That was the farthest thing from my mind. I actually, I'm a creative person at heart, in spite of all the science in my background, I am also a piano player and actually attended, music conservatories and wanted to do that for a living. And so being in business is definitely something that just kind of came at me from left field, to be honest, because really it was just kind of driven by my desire to help other people. Because I realized that if I could come out of hospice, there's no reason why other people cannot, because it's really a message of hope that I want to bring to people. And that's how I got into this business.
So, do you think that the background that you have, which was both scientific and military, played a role in what you're doing now as a business owner and health coach? I certainly think it taught you how to think, and it taught you how to look at projects, but I'm not sure what else it did.
Yes, you're right about the thinking. I think it gave me a very analytical background. And so that's what I kind of applied to this business and what I do in health coaching and helping people to recover their health. I not only apply that analytical side, but I also apply an artistic approach as well, because I think it really needs to be a balance. It cannot be one sided. And I think that's true for business as well.
So, what do you think is the biggest difference between what you did in the military versus what you're doing now? I mean, I can see a whole lot of things, but I'm sure there is something that really hits you right between the eyes.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities, but the thing that I noticed right off the bat was, in the military, I used to work for people, I had bosses, and now as a business owner, I'm the one calling the shots. And so there's a lot, whereas the military gave me structure, as a business owner, I have to add that structure. And, maybe the leap isn't that great, but it does take a certain amount of discipline. And that's, so it's interesting when you look at it, that there's both similarities and differences, but they really complement each other very well.
Yeah, I mean, you've got this hierarchy in the military. I mean, it's all about, obeying orders and not breaking the rules. And I think as a health coach, you're kind of always breaking rules. You're doing a bunch of things that are kind of unique and different all the time. So, what did you have to overcome in your mind to create and keep your business alive?
The biggest thing that I had to overcome was really I had this a strong need for privacy. I'm an introvert at heart, and so to create a website was a huge step for me. I mean, I really did not want to do any of this, but I knew that with my miraculous recovery, I knew that I just had to somehow turn it around to help other people. And so I told myself that, I can't be selfish about this. I need to just, so I had to let go of my fears and my need for privacy and just, say, well, I'm just going to take the step forward and see where it leads.
So really, you mentioned that you're an introvert, and I would think that many of the things that you did in the Air Force allowed you to be an introvert, because if you did your job and you knew your stuff, you could really create your future path. Whereas you really had to take the bull by the horns. And believe me, I don't like making a website either. This was not one of my favorite things. but you just had to get out of your own way. You had to get out of your own self. And I would think, when you're working as a health coach, what are the major? Is there a common theme amongst the people that you're working with? Is there something that seems to come up with everybody that you're working with?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And everyone that I'm working with now, they all have, have cancer. And the one theme that I see that comes up time and time again is these people, me included, had a tendency to care a great deal about what other people thought about them, and they were people pleasers. And there's always an area where there's a lack of integration in their life. So for me, for example, it's the music, the creative part. I kind of put that down for a while in order to pursue my career in the Air Force. And I see that with the people that I work with. There's some aspect of themselves that has not been integrated into who they truly are, some of their gifts and talents. And it doesn't have to be anything spectacular, but those are some of the common themes that I see.
So these people that you're working with who have cancer, have you seen progress and miraculous results yourself?
Absolutely, yes. I've had people who have miraculous stories of themselves. One that I can think of, she had ovarian cancer as well. She had 3 tumors in her right ovary, and all of them disappeared. She canceled her surgery. I was actually with her at the appointment she had with her oncologist, and to hear her oncologist say that you are in complete remission, it was just really an amazing experience.
So what do you think the secret is, Deanna? Is it the food we eat? Is it our mindset? Is it how we spend our time every day? What do you think is the secret combination? Because you evidently have found it.
It's all of the above and more, and the spirituality, that's a key piece, because that part will actually guide you and give you wisdom and strength, and everything else can fall into place. But because initially when I came into this, I was very much focused on the nutritional piece. I think that's the easiest for people to understand, and for me it certainly was. And I saw amazing changes. Within the first 3 months of changing my diet, my elevated tumors came back to normal. The tumors start to shrink. So I know that there is a lot of power in the diet. However, if it doesn't matter how good of food you eat, if your thoughts, are negative, or if you're self-critical, because if there's a lack of coherence between what your brain is thinking and what your heart is feeling, that's where I find people will run into trouble. And so it really is, we are really mind, body, and spirit, and as such, we need to really look and address those parts of our being in order to really heal in a holistic manner.
So in the food that you recommend, is it all organic, or is it not? And is it plant based, or can people eat meat of some sort as long as it's lean?
Well, if it's like a solid type of tumor for the cancer, my recommendation is to definitely adopt a plant-based diet. And I think organic is important because it will really reduce your burden of pesticides, which are really very, very challenging for the body, especially the liver. And the liver is really a key player in cleansing, your blood and part of your whole immune system, really. And so, yes, so everyone is different. And that's what I do. I tailor my program to specifically what's going on with them, because it really isn't a one size fit all, but there are definitely principles that I believe can help, no matter, how sick anyone is.
So what were some of the fears that you had to overcome in creating your business?
I had to overcome, well, I mentioned the privacy thing, and then the other thing was I really had to overcome my fear of really being judged by people, because the message that I have about, being able to heal in a natural manner, that may not be popular with people, because I think that, when someone receives a diagnosis, it's easy to become fearful, and the tendency would be to just listen to everything the doctor says. And I'm not against doctors. I know I wouldn't be here weren't for my doctor. And so when in my own business, just sharing that message, I did get a lot of, flack back, if you will, because people would say, well, it's hard enough dealing with a cancer diagnosis. I don't want to hear about the food piece. And so I had to really kind of develop some thick skin about that, and just realize that, maybe my story is unique in a way, but in many ways I don't think it is, because with the people that I've helped, I just see there's all these common threads that runs through it, and they're all very similar. So yeah, just overcoming my fear of what other people would think.
And, I think that's something for all of us. And of course, and I think, Deanna, too, it is much more prevalent in women than it is in men. I think men say, yeah, so they don't like it tough. Whereas women say, well, what are they saying about me? What do they think about me? Are they judging me? That kind of thing. And it's much more prevalent in women than in men. But I think that I think, when we go into business, maybe some of us think, well, we offer this product or we offer this service. They either want it or they don't. If they hire us, we do a good job. We won't hear any more from them. But it's not that. It's you really have to form a relationship in order to have a business that not only refers other people but is successful. So what would some of your success tips be for business owners then?
The first thing I would say is really to do what makes your heart sing. I really believe life is just too short to be doing something to be pleasing other people. And so, if you find that you have difficulty waking up in the morning to go do your job, I think that's a sign that you need to really look at something else. Because if it's something that really makes your heart sing and fills you with passion, you're going to want to get up and do it. And it's not going to feel like work. The other thing I would say is to take the time to know who you really are. Take the time to be still. And that's not popular, I think, in, today's culture, because I think so many of us are, we value, being busy and active and productive. And those are all good things to do. But if you neglect what's going on inside of yourself, then it's easy to lose touch. And I'm speaking from firsthand experience. And so I would really encourage someone, who's thinking about a business, don't try to, mimic someone else's business or copy someone else's business. You have your own unique set of gifts, talents, experiences. And so take the time to learn who you really are, and build a business around that. And
so, by doing that, I mean, a lot of people panic, though, Deanna. In other words, oh, I don't have a job, I don't have money coming in, and what am I going to do? And they panic. And so, and then they listen to everybody that they shouldn't. But curiosity, what made you join the Air Force in the first place?
Well, this is a good question. When I was in high school, I actually told my parents I wanted to be a ballerina, a gymnast, or a pianist. And they promptly told me, you can't make a living like that. You need something solid. And because my father, he was a fighter pilot actually in the Air Force. And so I grew up with that exposure. And he was also a liaison officer for the U.S. Air Force Academy. And so I started perusing some of those catalogs to the Air Force Academy, and I thought, well, if I can't pursue these dreams of mine, maybe I can go there. And what's interesting is you have to pass a physical fitness test in order to be accepted into the Air Force Academy, among many other tests. And when I went, I passed everything except for one area, which was the pull-ups. And for women back then, we only had to do one pull-up. I did zero. And so I failed. At that point, I prayed and I just said, God, if you want me to make it there, I know you will make a way. Otherwise, it just wasn't meant to be. I had to retest in a week's time. And when I went back and tested, I did 3
Wow.
pull-ups. Yeah.
That's amazing because I know, I probably could have done pull-ups years ago. Now I have no chest muscles, so there's no way I'm doing anything like that. But isn't that interesting? And did you practice in between it all?
I practiced for a whole year before the actual test that I failed. My brother was in the Marines, and, I trained with him. I trained with a police sheriff. I was very, very intense. I used to run with my combat boots in the morning and still failed. So, I knew that within a week's time for me to be able to go from 0 to 3, that was my sign that's where I was supposed to go.
Wow, that is amazing. And then, of course, to go into such a scientific, analytical world of math and science, which is something that's not my forte. So, wow. So, if people wanted to get a hold of you, Deanna, where would they go?
They could go to my website, which is deannawon.com. That's DEANNAWON.com. And I have a little contact sheet if they, want to schedule a free consultation with me. So, yeah.
That sounds wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, if any of you are, if you do have cancer or any other disease that you feel talking to someone who has really saved her own life would be beneficial to you, you definitely go to Deanna's website because and get a consultation with her because it is amazing what the right mindset can do for you. So if you were to leave a main message for our audience, what would it be?
I would say that, no matter what you're going through, if you're, whether it's cancer or whether you're thinking about starting a business, there's always going to be fears that, you might be struggling with. And I would say that take that first step, whatever it is, just take that first step, get in touch with, your inner awareness and do what aligns with what you truly believe and just take that first step. Nothing has to be perfect. And as you begin to take these steps, you'll begin to see the fears will just roll away.
Wow. Wow. Well, you can't get a better authority than someone who has gone through what Deanna has. My best friend many years ago passed away from ovarian cancer, and it's not an easy cancer to detect. And by the time you usually detect it, it's too late. How did they find it with you, Deanna?
This is interesting. I was actually on my way to a yoga class, and it was in the middle of winter. I slipped in the parking lot on some black ice, went airborne, and landed on my tailbone. I couldn't walk, and so I had to be taken to the hospital, and they thought I had fractured my tailbone. And so when they did the scan, they said, well, you didn't break your tailbone, but it looks like you have a cyst on your left ovary. And so I thought, oh, that's interesting. And so I followed up with my doctor and, didn't really think much about it. She actually said, well, do you feel any pain? And I said, no, I don't. And she said, well, don't worry about it because it's pretty common for women of childbearing age to have cysts. And so I didn't until 10 months later, and I end up in a hospital in excruciating pain. And so, you're right. Ovarian cancer is a tough one because there are hardly any symptoms. It's known as the cancer that whispers because the symptoms that do exist, they're so vague that you could easily mistaken them for, other conditions, like digestive issues. You might experience bloating or, some pressure. So it is very difficult, but that's how I found out.
Wow, which is also a message to listeners. If you find something, do something about it. We all look and say, oh, well, no big deal, but it is a big deal. So take Deanna's advice and do, follow up with something. So if you want someone who can really help you, especially if you're in a situation where you've got a dire diagnosis and you want somebody who you can talk to, go to Deanna's website, get a free consultation, see what she has to say, see if she resonates with you, and I think she will, because she's got a terrific background and a lot of history, and I think this is something you might really, really enjoy. So go to Deanna, Deanna Won, WON.com, and sign up for her free consultation. And if you want to find out more about you, I've got a new quiz that's just out. Excuse me, it's called the SOBquiz.com. So you can go to SOBquiz.com and take that and see what comes up for you for that. Thank you so much for being with us, Deanna.
Oh, thank you so much, Gayle. It's my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Women in Business. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you have any suggestions as to who you'd like me to have as a guest, just email me at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. Be sure to check out www.sob6tips.com. And in the meantime, go to www.spunkyoldbroad.com to see the resources I have for you.